The sky above the forest was a dull gray, with dark clouds swirling ominously, a reflection of the uncertainty that had taken root in my life since that strange encounter. I was alone in the middle of nowhere, miles away from civilization. The cabin I had built with my own two hands was isolated, far from the reach of any government or space agency. Life was simple out here, until that day when I found her. I had just returned from a long, tiring day of chopping firewood and gathering supplies for the winter. My muscles were sore from the manual labor, but it was the only life I knew now. The trees around me were tall and ancient, their bark cracked with age, but the air smelled of pine and earth, a refreshing change from the sterile, artificial scent of the city. I had always preferred the solitude of the woods to the bustle of human life. There was peace here, or at least there used to be. As I crossed the small creek that ran behind the cabin, I saw her. At first I thought she was a figment of my tired mind, some hallucination brought on by exhaustion. But no, she was real. Small, delicate, her pale blue skin almost glowing in the twilight. She was crouched down by the water, her fragile form shivering from the cold. For a moment I hesitated, unsure of what to do. She wasn't human, but the sight of her, so vulnerable, so alone, stirred something deep within me. My first instinct was to walk away, to ignore the strange figure. But I couldn't bring myself to leave her there, abandoned in the woods. I approached slowly, my boots crunching on the gravel as I made my way toward her. The child looked up, her large dark eyes wide with confusion. The blue skin of her face shimmered in the dim light, and her antennae, delicate and long, quivered at the sound of my approach. I could see that she was in distress. She hadn't moved, hadn't made a sound, but her posture conveyed something primal: hunger, loneliness, fear. "Are you okay?" I asked cautiously, crouching down in front of her. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she recoiled slightly. She didn't speak at first, but her trembling hands reached out almost instinctively to grasp the sandwich I had tucked into my pack. I glanced down at the food and, without thinking, handed it to her. "Here, take it. You look like you need it." She hesitated, staring at the food as if unsure of what to do. Then her tiny hand snatched the sandwich, and in an instant, it was gone. She devoured it with a speed and hunger that was both unnerving and heartbreaking. Her small frame seemed to shrink even further as she finished the last crumbs, her eyes never leaving my face. "Are you hungry?" I asked again, the words barely leaving my mouth before she nodded vigorously. "Hungry?" she whispered in broken English, her voice high-pitched and fragile. I felt a pang of sympathy. This child, whatever she was, had clearly been through something terrible. She wasn't just hungry, she was starving. My mind raced, trying to make sense of the situation. Where had she come from? How had she ended up here? And why was she alone in the woods? "Do you have a family?" I asked, standing up and offering her a hand. She took it hesitantly, her small fingers wrapped around mine. Her antennae twitched, and she looked away, her eyes filled with sorrow. She shook her head slowly, then whispered, "No family." It was a gut punch. This child, this alien creature, was alone in the world, stranded far from her home. She had no one. The thought gnawed at me. How could I leave her like this? I didn't have answers, but I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't just turn my back on her. There was something deeply human about offering help when it was needed the most. I led her back to the cabin, taking extra care as I pulled her through the darkening woods. The air was crisp, and the branches above creaked in the wind. We moved quickly, my mind still racing, wondering what the hell I was getting myself into. The cabin's warmth was a welcome contrast to the cold night outside. I set her down by the hearth, stoking the fire to give her some warmth. As I rummaged through my cupboards, I found some canned food, simple stuff, the kind of survival food I kept on hand just in case. The alien child's eyes lit up as I placed a bowl of warm food in front of her. She devoured it with the same eagerness as she had the sandwich, her eyes closing as she savored each bite. Afterward, she curled up on the small couch by the fire, her body tense with exhaustion. I sat across from her, watching her intently. What had brought her here? Who was she? My thoughts were interrupted by a strange noise, a low hum in the distance. I ignored it at first, thinking it was just the wind, but the sound grew louder, more insistent. It wasn't natural. I rose from my chair, instinctively reaching for the rifle that I kept on the wall just in case. The hum became a drone echoing through the trees, growing steadily louder. I stepped toward the window, my heart racing in my chest. There, just beyond the tree line, I saw it, a dark shape silhouetted against the fading light. The craft was massive, hovering just above the ground, its engines humming with a power I could feel in the pit of my stomach. I could hear the sounds of metal scraping, footsteps, heavy and deliberate. Someone was coming. I stepped back from the window, my hands shaking. "Celery, you need to stay inside," I whispered urgently, my mind spinning. The child stirred, looking up at me with wide eyes. "What is it?" I didn't have time to answer. The door slammed open, and a figure stepped inside. The air seemed to freeze, and I was momentarily paralyzed by the presence of this imposing figure. The alien mother stood in the doorway, a towering presence wrapped in dark metallic armor. Her eyes gleamed with an eerie yellow light, her body exuding authority. Her movements were smooth, controlled, but there was a deadly intent in the way she carried herself. "Where is my daughter?" The alien mother growled, her voice low and resonant like a force of nature. I didn't have an answer for her. She's here." She was starving. "I just helped her." The alien mother's eyes narrowed as she took a step forward, the room seeming to shrink with the power of her presence. "You have fed her," she said, her tone full of menace. "Do you know what you've done?" I stumbled backward, my hands raised defensively. "I didn't mean any harm." She was hungry. "She's just a child." The mother's gaze softened for a moment as she looked at Celery, who had quietly moved to stand behind me. The child's voice was trembling as she stepped forward. "Mama, I'm sorry." He fed me. He was kind. The alien mother's eyes flicked from Celery to me, and for a brief moment, there was a strange, almost tender look in her expression. But it quickly faded, replaced by cold calculation. "You have made a dangerous mistake," she said quietly, "but I will allow you to live, for now." I was frozen in place, unable to speak, as the alien mother reached down and gently pulled Celery into her arms. "We leave now," she said, her voice sharp, final. Before I could react, she turned, her armored figure already moving toward the door. "Your kindness will be remembered," she muttered as she stepped outside. The door slammed shut behind them, and I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest. What had just happened? Had I just narrowly escaped something far worse than I could have imagined? And what would become of me now that I had crossed paths with this alien mother? I didn't know. But one thing was certain. My life, my world, would never